Hi everyone, this is Vivi and welcome to this week's books discussion. So this week we are on chapter 8 right now. Is the chapter Death. So how do you really understand the meaning of death? A lot of people are afraid of death, like dying is scary. It's because we have the conception of death is like the end and that's it, like nothing else come out of it. And it's kind of interesting that we majority of us do not enjoy our life, but at the same time we're so afraid of letting go of this life because we're not enjoying it because we actually don't really live it, but we're afraid of dying because because we regret of not doing what we're supposed to do or living the best of our life. So we keep chasing time, like we never have enough time, because we actually not really living our life the way that we want to live. And so that's why we're afraid of death, because we are afraid of regretting how we actually live our life. Because when we have life, we take it for granted, and we don't appreciate it, and we don't live it the way that we should live, because we're so busy spending our minds trying to and our energy trying to please other people and live up to other people's expectation or opinions. And so by the end of the day, by the end of our life, we're afraid of death because we're afraid of regretting. So because in reality, death is not just about limitation. It's not about the end, but at every end there's also a new beginning. So it's not really at like the end. It's like the seasons. Well, the winter has to end in order for the spring to come, and the spring has to end for the summer to come. So the season changes. Everything is like in the cycle, and so is our life that goes into a cycle. We have to die in order for new life to begin. Imagine if like 7 billion of us don't die, and just like new humans are being born. Like this earth cannot fit all of us, right? Only 7 billion, and it feels like the earth is already suffering, like she's already trying to breathe, and there's just so much catastrophe going on because of what we are causing on the planet. Imagine if we don't die and we just keep living and we just keep reproducing, then what would happen, right? So, but why is it that we are so afraid of dying? And because our physical body is actually just a vehicle for our soul in order to experience this 3D reality on earth. But that's the reason why there's reincarnation, and this has been proofs. There has been I wouldn't say facts, but there has been a lot of experiments around reincarnation, and they was trying to find proof for that. And even in ancient texts, even in Buddhism and Hinduism teaching, they also talk about reincarnation as well. So in that sense, we actually don't really die, because our souls don't really die. That's the reason why we carry the memories over from lives to lives, and that's how we're able to obtain these proofs from past lives and the memories from past lives. So the idea of death that I talk about in this book is the conceptual death, which means there's many layers of us because there's many parts of us. And in order for us to grow and transform, over time we would have to let go a certain part or a certain identity of us, of ourselves, in order to transform into a higher self. So it's like the layers of onions going up the step by layers. You think of revelation is like going up the stairs. So you would have to let go of your old self in order to become the new self, because the old self doesn't fit into your future. It doesn't serve the purpose in what you're supposed to do, or who you're supposed to be in the future or even in the now. And that's the reason why there has to be death, but at every end is this every beginning. That's why we have the transition between the winter and the spring. The end of the winter is the beginning of spring. So there's always that transition point. And so that's why we should not be afraid of death, but rather we should celebrate for what's new to come. So how are we able to let go of the old self in order to transform into the new self? This is what I talk in the book. It's about, for me, this particular chapter, it's about facing the fear of failure and the fear of unknown. Now, as we grow and we transform, you will have to face different kinds of fears. Depends on the stage that we are in at that time, what are challenging us at that time. So your fear is kind of like in your shadow, and you would have to look into your shadow in order to acknowledge the fears. And when you acknowledge it, you would have to face it in a gentle way. It's not like fighting it. It's not like beating it up to death and then judging it and criticize it. So how did I face these fears in order to transform, right? So to face this fear of failure and the fear of unknown, it kind of goes hand in hand for me at that time, because I was going into a whole new direction, and I was afraid I wouldn't make it. I was afraid that I didn't have what it took in order to go on to this path. And of course there's a lot of worries and anxieties. What if things break down? What if like no one would hear me, no one would understand me, no one would see me? So for me at that time, I really took my time to just listen to my heart, as I discussed in the previous lives. I think it was chapter 4 that I was talking about, to learning to listen to the heart, and I really mean it, and I can't emphasize enough like how important it is, because that has been my compass the whole time. And so when it's asked me to go into the new direction, I follow that. So the first tool that I use in order to face this fear of failure is by listening to my heart and knowing it, in order to get the guidance, in order to get the knowing whether this is the right direction for me to go, this is the right action for me to take. And also knowing at the same time that even if I fail, I can always go back to my previous lives. There's will always certain kind of flexibility there. I wouldn't say that it's like a safety net, but I would say that I know that I am okay in the moment. I am safe in the moment. Because I am safe, I can take that risk to take one more step toward that risk, because there is the possibilities there for me to go higher. Even though I am okay at this layer or at this point in my life, but because I want to go higher, so I would have to take that risk and face that fear of failure. So it's about gaining the confidence. It's gaining about the being safe here at the moment in order to go further to the next step. So that's the first thing about listening to my heart and getting to understand it, whether I want to stay or I want to go to the next level, where there's any excitement that comes up, or is it like too scary that it actually brings me down. When I feel that there's more excitement, stepping into that unknown and the possibilities that I can actually create, that is when it gives me the courage to take that risk, to face that fear of failure, because in that unknown there's a sense of freedom, because there's a sense of possibilities, and it's up to me to create that possibilities. Often that these fears of failure also come back and hold us back because we don't trust ourselves enough to gain success, because our mind is so wound up with all the negative experiences in the past, on the things that we cannot achieve or we fail in the past. Like all those memories may surface up or may come up at this point in order to hold us back. And so it's important to actually recognize what we have achieved, what we have accomplished in the past, not just what we failed in the past, on the things that we failed to do. Even with all the things that we failed to do, like what did we learn from that, and gain that lessons and combine it with the achievements, the acknowledgement of the achievement, everything that we have won, we have achieved in the past, and use that as a leverage to gain confidence in order to take the next step. It's kind of like when you go up to when you walk up the stairs and you've already gone up to the 10th floor, you know that you can continue going up because you have already achieved that. Or when you go hiking up on the mountains, there's different levels of hiking, right? So when you go up to this mountain as the, let's say at the intermediate level of hiking, then because you succeeded that level, then you know at some point you're gonna get tired of it, because it's the normal for you now, the normal level for you now. So when you want to accelerate yourself and when you want to grow, you want to get to the advanced level, go to a higher mountain in order to challenge yourself. And so that's how the confidence is built. So that's how we can actually use this this metaphor, this lesson in facing the fear of failure. And that is actually what I did. And at that time, I actually looked into my achievement of immigration to Canada. So for me, that was a huge accomplishment, because not a lot of people can achieve immigration to a different country, let alone living in a van, right? So I have to acknowledge all the things that I have done in the past, that I feel proud of myself, instead of looking into all the failures that I did. But even all the failures, as I look back, I realized they gave me a lot of lessons to help me carry forward, and that's give me the courage to also face this fear of failure as well. And this fear of failure comes up when I was asked to change my path to completely embrace my nomadic life and to be an entrepreneur, to work for myself, to follow my own calling. And because I didn't know anything at that time, I didn't know how everything would unfold, and that's why there was a lot of fear. And that's how I also face all my fears, using these different tools in order to help me gain courage. So first of all, about perception. First of all, listen to the heart. Second of all, it's not about perception. Gaining the courage by looking at, acknowledging your past achievement. So as you go into this unknown, it's called unknown because we don't know everything, like how this path is unfold all the way to the end. We cannot see it clearly all the way to the end, but we can actually see what is right in front of us at the moment. And so when you use your intuition to kind of gauge your environment, your surrounding, you would see many synchronicities that show up to give you a sign that this is the right path, the right door to go further into that unknown. So it's unknown because in the future, but it is known in the present. So we have to be present in order to see and understand which step we should take to that direction, that would create the best outcome or the highest outcome, and to get us into better alignment. So there are actually many tools to help us to stay in the present, right? To recognize the synchronicities. Or some may call it the omens. So when you pay attention, you will be given signs. When you ask, you'll be given signs for all the synchronicities that may show up, and it may tell you, oh, this is actually the right path, or you are on the right path, and keep going on that direction. It may not necessarily tell you what to choose, but it would, because your choice will always your power, because that's your free will. So when you choose, in order for you to gain the confirmation, you can ask if this is the right direction, if you have chosen to be on that path. So when you ask for the signs, it's gonna show up, but you have to pay attention to all those signs in order to get your answer, right? So the tools that I normally use for this is by tarots or oracle cards. It's very easy to use tarot, and I don't think that you necessarily have to gain all the knowledge. You have to learn everything about tarot in order to use tarot, because I didn't. I just simply ask questions, and I just pick a card, and whatever that card comes out, that is what that's the energy that I tune in, and that's the energy that comes back to me. And so the higher wisdom will always, it will always be correct. There's no wrong way to use tarot. It's all because it's all about using intuition. So when you ask the question, and you can either get the answers by looking at the images, or find it in the text, the description of the card, what this card really means. And that's what I normally use, because sometimes I don't understand everything on the images in the oracle card, or in the tarot card. If I don't understand it, then I can read the text and read the description, and I see which sentences of that description like scream out at me, and that's the answer for my question that is relevant and is relatable. Often when you tune in, the energy is not disturbed. The answer can be pretty clear. And in my experience, it does really take time to kind of build a relationship with your tarot card or your oracle card as well. And the better connection you have with the card, the clearer the answer is. But you can actually also use crystals in order to clean the energy. I think some people also use Reiki as well, or you can also sage or use incense candles in order to clear the energy in the surroundings, so that is the answers can come through a lot clearer. Sometimes I do that as well, but it's also about building the connection with the oracle or the tarot card as well. the more you use it, the easier it is to understand the card, and the more correct the message is, or the more relevant it is to your answer. And so when I go into the unknown, or when I'm afraid of something, or when I need to make decision, or when I feel like, oh my, I don't get the message from my heart, it's like I can't get anything, that is when I normally use tarot or oracle cards to get some more guidance. And if the message doesn't come very clear, then I will just try it at another time, or I just kind of sit on that on the message that I receive and see what would come later on. Sometimes, like when you ask, it doesn't really, the answer doesn't come right away, but it just kind of like drop on you at any moment. Like sometimes when I go for a walk, that is when it's kind of like come up. The answers kind of come up to me, or like when you're in the shower also, sometimes you get the answers for what you asked. And also meditation is incredibly helpful as well. It's such a powerful tool, and it's the most popular one in order to ask questions and receive answers, or tune into your heart, in order to sense or feel the direction that you are going. And so yeah, that's one of the tools that I normally use, using tarot or oracle card. They are two different systems. Tarots are very different with oracle. It's not the same. So you can use either one, whichever one that you feel related to, or you drawn to, in order to get the message, to understand, to receive more guidance for the path that you are going to take, that you not sure what's going to come up, right? So it's when you're able to receive the message and be present in order to understand your path and your surrounding, when you take that next step, that is when you would have to face all your fears, or and get all of your courage to overcome that challenge. So another tool that I normally use when I'm in this situation, or at that time actually, at that time that I wrote in the book, is using dream time in order to get more guidance on what the best thing that I should do, or whether this path is right for me. So before I go to bed, I always ask my dream to give me a sign, to guide me. What is it that I'm supposed to know at this time for my highest good? And when it is relevant for me, I know that the message would always come up, especially is if the time is right. Also, it's all about divine timing. And throughout the past several years, I have had a lot of interesting dreams and very powerful dreams. Sometimes I don't ask for it, but if the time is right, that it just come up. And sometimes I don't understand the dreams. This is when I have to dissect it and interpret it by using my intuition, or actually looking up all the symbols. So there's several books about understanding your dream out there. I think I learned I learned one book, but I didn't reference it too much. But most of the time, I just kind of look up my symbols either by Google or using my intuition and knowledge that I have gained over time in order to understand my dream. And really, the key is always the intuition, that you have to tune in to your intuition in order to understand the message. Because if it's your dream, only you can interpret it and understand it to your best knowledge, because everything is in your subconscious. However, sometimes there's certain symbols that comes up. It can be universal symbols, ancient symbols that you know nothing about. That is when you would have to seek for knowledge from other people, from other teachers, coaches, or from books, in order to understand the dream. And I have found it to be quite fascinating so far. When you go into your dream, it's kind of like travel into a different dimension. And it's my dream kind of comes and goes. Sometimes I dream a lot and sometimes I don't, but when I dream a lot, I always write down my dream. The first thing that I do when I wake up is to write down my dream as details as I can, because sometimes it contains really important messages. Sometimes I feel like the dreams is not really relevant. It's just random and it doesn't really make sense, because we have different type of dreams as well. Sometimes it's just kind of like a reflection of things that you go on in the day, or things in your memories that is kind of just comes out. Not necessarily that is always about your guidance, but it is still very important to practice remembering your dream. And because when that message come through, you'll be able to catch it and you understand it. And it's but first you would need to train yourself to remember your dream first, and to train yourself to interpret your dream, so that when you ask for it and the message come through, then you would be able to understand it and use it as a guidance to lead you into the next step, when you go into that unknown. That's what I have been using. That's what I have done since I took my leap of faith going into the unknown, because I just keep asking questions again for confirmation, even though I try to gain the courage from the past, but there's still a lot of uncertainties that come up, and this is normal. It's normal for us to have this uncertainty, to go into it unknown, because we're not God. We are still human, and that's why we constantly need guidance. But you would have to work with your guide in order to receive the message, in order to be guided. And that's and using dream time and tarot and synchronicity is how you can actually work with your guide and allow the message to come through, and help you through all your paths. Right, so I'm just looking at my notes to see if I miss any points here. So yeah, during this time, those are the tools that I use in order to help me to transform and to shed the layer of myself and become who I am today. Now I understand the methodologies and the steps a lot better, but back then when I have to face my fear of shame, like when I was going back to when I was going back to Vietnam and left the US. Of course, I didn't know. There was a lot of unknown there, and it was extremely scary. That was my biggest shadow, or like the darkest time of my life, because I was at the very ground level, but as I was able to go through that experience, that's how I gained the courage. And that's the reason why when we grow and we transform, it has to have that layers, it has to have that structure, so that we can become lighter, so that we can gain the courage or the experience and utilize all these first lessons that we learn to go to the high level, or the next step that we are supposed to take. So at that ground level is always the hardest one, or the most difficult one to take, and I was able to accomplish or to go through that because I learned to listen to my heart and take that leap of faith. And that's why I always emphasize that it's the most important tool and the most important lessons for all of us to understand and to know, in order to help us through our own evolution, through our transformation. Because if we don't let go of all this fear, we cannot gain freedom. If we don't transform, we cannot be lighter, we cannot fly. Like the caterpillar cannot fly until it's transformed into a butterfly, and that is a whole different version. The butterfly doesn't look at all like the caterpillar. So the steps, the process along the way is just long and it's just dark, because the caterpillar would have to go into the cocoon, and it's just dark in there in the cocoon, and it's immobile also, and it takes a lot of trust and courage, and know when to surrender in order to going through all of this transformation. So I hope that this is helpful for you when I share with you my personal experiences and the tools that I actually use during this time, and I'm still using these exercises, these tools to help me go to the next step. And of course, as we go through different stages, we're gonna acquire more knowledge in order to help us overcome the next challenge. And so at every stage, try to learn something new, gain the new knowledge, so that you when we have knowledge, we are also more creative in our problem solving as well, because knowledge is powerful. It can help you to be more flexible, or to know more ways of solving your own problem. So at every stage, I always try to learn something, like going through coaching, or read new book, or watch a new educational program, whatever that would help me to acquire new information, new knowledge, to help me solve my challenge at this time. And so yeah, a lot of tools for you, a lot of information for you out there, and I hope that all of the insights will help you if you are currently facing this situation, to face a fear of failure, or to face a fear of unknown. Hopefully these insights are helpful to you, and that it will give you some new tools in order to navigate through these tough time or the challenges that you are going through. Because I think at any point in our life, almost every one of us have to face these fears, because right now, even like the whole collective, we are facing the fear of unknown, right? And we are trying so many things to help us out this dark phase and dark time. And of course there's the risk there, and if there's risks, that means that also the fear of failure as well. So collectively we are also facing these fears, and if everyone can navigate themselves to grow and to overcome their own fears and to transform and to gain their own freedom, that will in return helps the collective and help the world as well. So that's all I have for you today, how I was able to overcome my fear of failure and the fear of unknown. Like I said, hopefully it is helpful for you. And again, if you want to read the full story, it's in my book, livingthroughalchemy.com. You can go to my website, livingthroughalchemy.com, in order to download the first chapter. And my books is available on Amazon if you want to check it out. For those of you that have read the book, please leave me the review on Amazon. That would be super helpful for me, and also helpful for those that may need these insights and inspiration, the messages I'm sharing in the book as well. So these videos or the past lives are actually helpful to understand the book a little deeper, and hopefully that is get you to think in different perspective about your life and give you inspiration to take the next step and to embark on a new journey and to face all your fears, so that you too can also transform to your higher self and to get more freedom from within. So yeah, that's all I have for you this week. And next week, I think it is the last chapter. Also the bonus chapter as well. That's where I talk about how I adopted Marco. So next week will be the last video for the book discussion, so make sure that you don't miss it. There's a lot to share. And until then, I hope you have a great week and make the best of your life. Enjoy yourself. I see you then. Bye.